All right. We are live here in the snowy Northeast. Welcome, Bill, to the podcast today. I know you're in Western. Are you in Western New York today?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm in my office in beautiful Buffalo, New York.
Right. I'm in southeastern Connecticut, and hopefully some of the snow is melting outside. So, well, welcome to the podcast, Bill Jolbert. Right?
Thanks, Drew.
Sorry.
Yes, you got it.
I had to ask you before, but no, we've never met. I've known a lot of the Amerex folks, since we partnered with them last year, and really excited. Some of the leadership mentioned the topic of vehicle suppression and vehicle gas detection. And some of the, we'll get into it with the electrical vehicles and everything, but it's a really cool topic. There's, we'll get that toward the end, but, yeah, you're the director of sales of vehicle sales for Amerex. And, I guess let's learn, the audience is all over the world and everything. So, give us a little background of who you are and where you came from.
Sure. You can see I'm wearing my old man glasses because I've been around for a while and the eyes are getting a little shot. But no, this is my 35th year in the industry. I started out working for a distributor in Buffalo, New York, doing distributor things. I started like most people in this industry, filling fire extinguishers. Yeah. So, my background with the distribution side of the business is all types of fire suppression, kitchen, industrial, clean agents, any fire suppression system that's out there we worked on. And so I have a pretty strong background on that. And then the second half of my career has been working for different manufacturers strictly on vehicle systems.
Okay.
So I worked for a manufacturer for 7 years. Then I joined Amerex in 2011, and I've been with Amerex ever since. And so the last 18 years of my experience has been directly 100% on vehicle fire protection.
Wow. That's super niche right there, vehicle fire suppression.
It is very niche. That's correct. It's very correct.
Job security in that market.
Yeah, there's not a ton of people that do it, and even few that do it well. Even fewer that do it well. So, it is a niche market for sure.
So Amerex, obviously they're big on the portable side, on the kitchen suppression side. What is there? I mean, there's only a few that even do vehicle suppression, right?
It depends on where you're talking about. In the U.S., there's 3 or 4 strong companies that are strong, and then once you get outside of the U.S., because I'm also responsible for global sales.
Oh, wow.
Different areas have different competition. Europe, there's a lot of manufacturers there that are, for the most part, focused on that market. And you get into other countries. And so depending on where in the world you are, depends on who your competition is.
Yeah, no, totally. So when you say vehicle suppression, what vehicles are you talking about? And, because, there's a lot of different vehicles out there, right? From aircraft to obviously aircraft and all that.
Sure. Yeah. So the terminology that I use is anything that's an off-road piece of equipment, large haul truck or dozer, something that's off-road equipment, I refer to as machines. Mm-hmm. Machine. Anything that's over the road, could be a bus, a garbage truck, those kind of things I would call a vehicle. So that's the terminology that I use. Amerex is really very unique in that we play in all of the vehicle and machine markets. Yep. Really, most of the other manufacturers focus on off-road or they focus on over-the-road, and we're in all of it, which is great because it keeps me very busy and there's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
So if you look at the key markets on the off-road side, you have in the U.S., it's the waste industry is very big. Mining industry, the big.
Oh yeah.
If you've ever seen the modern Marvel show, they always have mining equipment on there because it's big, it's expensive, and it's cool looking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The tires are
mining,
12 feet tall, kind of thing.
Exactly right. Yeah. So those are very expensive pieces of equipment, and they have it's very important to keep those pieces of equipment running because the downtime the cost of downtime is incredible. So mining, forestry, agriculture, pretty much any machine that's working out there that has an engine in it, we can protect it.
Gotcha.
On the over the road, bus is the big market for us. Well, there's several different levels of buses, or not levels, but bus markets. The transit industry is the biggest market as far as requiring fire protection. And then there's school bus, and that's really a kind of an emerging market. There's no consistency. The rules are developed by each individual state, and most of them do not require protection.
Interesting.
There are some that do, but for the most part, it's kind of the Wild West as far as requirements in the school bus.
Yeah, that was the question.
That
was a question I did have is, you have all these different vehicles, whether it's off-road or on-road. Is there you have NFPA 17 and 17A, which handles wet and dry chem, which I know from my past, the different agents that are used on some of these vehicle fires. But is there an NFPA or UL or whatever code, or is it more like OEM based, or you said it's state based?
Yeah, for vehicles and machines in general, there's really no requirement for the most part, except for mining. MSHA has requirements for some mining applications. But like if you get into the bus industry or you get into the waste industry, those kinds of equipment, there's no specific code or requirement for that.
Right.
Those markets are driven by cost of downtime. They're driven by, could be insurance drivers. I know like in a lot of forestry applications, you cannot even get insurance unless you have fire protection. So insurance is a driver in certain industries. So for me and for the people that are doing vehicle systems, we really have to sell the value of fire suppression and the return on the investment.
Right. Yeah, and I guess if the piece of machinery is making the company money, right? Forestry, mining, even waste to a certain extent, right? Those are providing value money. But when you get into the buses, that's more. It seems like that's more of a public safety issue than it is cost. Am I wrong in that?
Unfortunately, cost is always an issue, but you're right. As far as the transit buses, it's if you have a piece of off-road equipment, you have one driver that you have to get off of that machine and get him to safety.
Right.
On a bus, you may have 30, 40 people on there that you have to buy time to get them off and get off safely. And then there's the if a bus starts on fire in the middle of New York City, it's going to get a lot of attention. Yeah. They don't want attention. So, that plays a part in it as well. But yeah, so if you look at vehicle and suppression in general for vehicles, what is our goal? What are we trying to accomplish by putting fire suppression on these, and our goal is to save lives.
Right. Right.
If it's a haul truck, you got one operator that you have to get off there, but that operator may be 25 feet up in the air.
Right.
And his exit route may be right in front of the engine.
Yep.
So, our goal there is to suppress that fire, get them off of the machine, and get them safe. If it's a bus, like we just talked about, it may have 30, 40 people, and we have to buy time to get them all off safely.
Yeah, sure. So
So our goal is to save lives.
Yeah, no, and that's what fire protection usually is. But sometimes it comes down to the dollars, and in this case, it's especially on the off-road side, you can definitely see that. What do the fires look like? I mean, it seems like it's a big diesel. Is it diesel, or I guess some of it could be gasoline too. But and then I know some buses are compressed gas or propane or natural gas.
Yeah. So the majority of vehicles out there that are protected are diesel and gasoline. We also protect LNG, CNG, even some school buses are propane. So we do protect different fueled vehicles, and they all are different. They have different hazards, but in general, the diesel fires, I would say the majority of those types of fires come from a broken hydraulic line or a fuel line that sprays flammable liquid onto hot engine components, igniting and that's. But there's obviously electrical things that can occur, alternators,
sure.
Starters. There's different types of fires that can occur.
Oh, all right. So I guess and I know Amerex got the Kodiak brand. What I guess just explain to everybody how if a hydraulic line cracked and broke, sprayed on the engine, obviously flares up. What is the process of that system going off?
Sure. First of all, when we look inside of an engine compartment, there's no way that we can predict where a hose will break or where the fuel will spray, because you just can't. So when you're looking at it as a hazard, you have to make the assumption that the fuel and the fire can be anywhere.
Right.
Or the fuel can be anywhere. And when that fuel is running up against the side of a bulkhead wall and running onto the ground, that's an issue, but it's really not a fire issue.
Right.
It's only when that fuel hits a heat source that it becomes a problem. Then it ignites and spreads and causes all kinds of chaos there. So when we're looking at the hazard area, we're really looking for ignition points, things that are going to start a fuel on fire. And we're going to protect them. We're going to do it with detection, and we're going to put the chemical agent onto those specific hazards.
Okay.
There's different styles of detection, heat detection. It's been pretty much the industry standard for 40 some odd years, linear heat detection.
Yep.
And linear heat detection, all it is 2 stainless steel wires with a heat sensitive insulation over the top, and those wires are twisted. So when the temperature reaches about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, the insulation melts off, the wires touch together, short out, and send a signal to the control panel that there's a fire. Then there's spot heat detection. Doesn't work the exact same way, but it is detecting heat. Then there are some optical and infrared type detections that don't. Yeah, they don't need to see the heat. They need to see the fire. They're picking up the wavelengths coming off of the fire. So those devices need to actually see the fire to work, whereas the heat detectors have to be in the heat to feel them.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that'll influence where you're going to put the detection.
Gotcha. Now, is majority of it still linear, and maybe some of the high dollar, vehicles are moving more toward the advanced detection?
That's great. It's pretty standard linear detection cable for a variety of reasons. One, it's a lower cost, but the other thing is it handles those rough environments very well. The vibration and the shock of
Yep.
things and the temperature, it handles that very, very well. You know, what the cable doesn't have is a brain. So it doesn't know the difference between a short from a fire or a short because it's rubbed up against a piece of metal and rubbed through. So Amerex many years ago came up with a detection cable that has a stainless steel spring over the top to help buy some time to identify those areas before it actually becomes an unwanted discharge.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Now does that,
it works very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And I guess you don't want, obviously nobody wants unwanted discharges. Right. So
no, they don't.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you see some of the, whatever, YouTube or whatever, and you see some of these big vehicle fires and, what is, I guess if you have a vehicle fire or an incident, the system goes off. Is it putting out dry chemical, wet chemical? What is it putting out?
We offer several different approaches. The basic dry chemical system has been around again since the inception of vehicle suppression. And the reason that dry chemical works so well is if you look at a typical engine compartment, a lot of obstructions and moving parts and things like that. The dry chemical and the turbulence inside of that compartment help to circulate that dry chemical to get into those hidden areas.
Oh, okay.
It's really effective at finding those hidden spots where fuel will hide. And so it's even today, dry chemical still is the fastest knockdown ability of any agent out there to put out a fire.
Gotcha.
People are also using wet chemical agents. Wet chemical does provide the advantage of cooling.
Right.
That is a big advantage. Where dry chemical does not provide cooling, wet chemical does. But wet chemical doesn't find those hidden areas the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot, you have a very fine spray that as it's heated up, it kind of pulls together and the droplets become bigger. And when they hit those heated surfaces, they have a tendency just to drop and roll rather than deflect and get in all the areas.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So wet chemical has the advantage of cooling, and dry chemical has the advantage of fire knockdown.
Is there any gaseous agents out there, like clean agent or any of that's used? I mean, I guess you need a volume compartment to really hold that gas, but
there are. But let me talk about the other option we have here is a combination of dry and wet chemical.
Oh, nice.
We offer a dry ICS system, and what we do is we do a discharge of dry chemical and wet chemical. So you get the benefit of both agents. So the dry chemical is knocking that fire down very quickly and then finding those hidden spots. And then the wet chemical is put on those superheated areas to cool them down, to reduce the chance that the fire could reflash.
Gotcha.
Afterwards. So clean agents, we do offer, there are clean agents out there. We have several options for bus industry, and we're looking into using that in other industries as well. We have a product called AVT, which is a combination. It's a proprietary blend. It's an Amerex proprietary blend, and it's used again at this point strictly on buses. And we've got third-party approvals for that as well.
Oh, nice.
And then we also offer a product AVT, which is it's a clean agent gas.
Gotcha.
That's widely available. So So we do offer some clean agents for certain applications.
Yeah, and I could see there's advantages to that because there's no residue, and the clean agents are pretty good,
Correct.
but you need a volume. You need volume with that. I guess it's probably local application more than anything, and
it is. It's an overflooding, so you're limited on where you can use it and how you can use it, but it's still very effective.
Interesting. I got to give compliments. I don't know if Susan Ray's on here right now, but whoever designed the Kodiak branding, I don't know why I love the branding of it. It's the bear with the claw marks through the name, and I've worked for I worked for Tyco and Ansel, and then I went over to Viking after that. But I am heavily involved with a lot of the manufacturers and really nerd out on a lot of the different products out there. But one of the things is, how do you market the product? And I think a cool logo, catchy name is, I don't know. I think it's important in our, weird fire protection world. So whoever created Kodiak, love it.
Well, I was part of a large team that helped to develop that, so it was a team effort for sure. But Amerex has been the premier supplier into the bus market for many, many, many years. Yeah. And when I arrived about 10 years ago, we decided we were going to really work on growing the name recognition of our off-road products and develop some additional off-road products, which we did. We had this great system. We wanted to be able to bring it out there to people, let them know what's about the product. So, we went on a marketing campaign before the Mine Expo in 2016, and after a lot of banging around, we decided on the Kodiak. We wanted a name a name and an image that reflected our vehicle suppression products. Right. Fast, powerful,
fierce. Yeah.
And that's where Kodiak came from. I can't take any credit for the logo though, although I agree it is very cool.
You gotta have fun with your job, right? So just a little cool thing I saw. So obviously vehicle suppression's big. How does now buses? How does that work on a bus? Because there's a lot of natural gas buses. So you have your clean agent, which you mentioned, but you probably have your regular, I guess it's probably dry chem for that. How do those fires happen with compressed gas?
It could be. They do have fires on them.
Sure.
Of course. They can be either from a leak from the combustible methane gas, or it could be from heated surfaces and those kind of things as well.
Gotcha.
What we do for CNG, LNG vehicles, particularly buses, is we actually have a combustible methane detection system. Oh. So it is detecting a leak. So if there's a leak of LNG, CNG gas, we actually have detectors that are looking for that will pick up that leak. We identify two different levels. We identify a 20% level. 20% is 20% of the lower explosive limit. So when the mixture in air reaches 20% of that lower explosive limit, we send a signal to the operator to say, hey, you got a problem here.
Interesting.
When it gets worse, when it gets up to 50%, when it's halfway to that lower explosive limit, then it goes into full-blown alarm, significant gas, alarms, relays, everything. Everything's going, saying, hey, we got a really big problem here. Get this thing pulled over, get everyone off quickly.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I didn't even know that. That's so it's working. Yeah. It's almost like a sniffer working on, a certain percentage.
Exactly.
And then alerts the driver.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Because once that goes, it goes.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want that happening. So on that,
No.
is there more? Is do a lot of? Would there be a suppression system on that, or is it more detection only for that?
For buses, it's pretty standard to do fire suppression and gas
Okay.
detection.
Okay.
On some smaller vehicles, like there's a lot of natural gas trash trucks.
Yep.
And a lot of those may have just gas detection on those types of vehicles, but we certainly offer both.
Right. That's interesting.
So we do a lot of gas detection on trash trucks. It's really fairly interesting. The landfills, they capture their methane that's released out of their landfills. They filter it, they get it ready, and they actually use it to fuel their municipal trash fleets.
Really?
So it's really a nice setup.
Yeah. Interesting. So they run off of methane. I did not know that. I thought it was more, I guess, natural gas.
It's natural gas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So they're capturing it, filtering it out, and using it to drive their trucks.
Wow. And that's done at the municipality level, or is like waste management doing that with? I guess that's more,
Yeah, I would say it's generally the larger companies that are better funded. If there's a local municipality that's running a trash site, they probably don't have the money to invest in something like that.
Sure.
But so all your big Waste Management, Republic,
yeah,
they have a lot of sites that do that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we just the golf tournament is on over the weekend. Waste Man. I mean that's like a really cool PR thing to push out there for like just sustainability and I don't know. It's really great. I never knew that. Well, speaking of sustainability, I know this is the big topic that I wanted to talk to you about. Vehicle suppression's been around for a while, and LNG and diesel and gasoline, but electric vehicle and EV, and just there's a lot of issues. Probably the top three, hot topics in fire protection is how to deal with these big lithium-ion battery fires, and just as it's growing, in the federal. The U.S. government obviously just favored that, so there's going to be more of that. You can see it. You watch the Super Bowl, and there's 5 new companies popping up, or 5 new vehicles popping up. So, what is happening out there? From obviously you're heavily involved in the vehicle market, and what's happening kind of right now, and what's happening, I don't know, a few years down the road.
Yeah, so it is. The market is a changing, and it's changing fast. Yeah. 10 years ago, natural gas vehicles were the up and coming new technology, the clean technology. Mm-hmm. Lots of fleets, buses and trucks and things were changing towards natural gas. Mm-hmm. And then there was kind of a turn. I don't know, this probably happened 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer now. Technology on the battery technology changed and got better. Mm-hmm. So it became more of a
it's a cost
value.
Yeah, it's a cost
way
thing.
That they could actually cost. Yep. Right, it's cost. Yep. You have recharging and things like that, and all the technology had to develop. So it started many years ago, but really over the last couple of years, the push towards electric vehicles has grown really, really strong. And, we see it every day. Every day you're hearing about fleets being changed and new requirements and money. Really, that's the big thing. Federal money being spent towards this.
Right.
And that helps to drive anything new.
Any industry,
money, right?
Yep.
Any industry. So as you can see, we're in all these different markets in forestry and buses and mining and this, and all of them are, you see the changes coming towards the vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably no stronger than in the transit, in the bus industry.
Okay.
That's really driving. That's happening very quickly. Like I said, it's been around for a while,
Right.
but the actual push is really grown strong. The vast majority of buses that are still sold today are diesel.
Okay.
But that number is changing.
Yep.
That number is changing rapidly. And probably over the next 3 years, I don't want to speculate, but I would say in the next 3 years, probably 75, 80% of all the new buses will be electric, ones that are being ordered.
Sure.
So it's changing that quickly. You know, from a fire suppression standpoint, you know, the lithium-ion batteries present a lot of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, there's different chemistries. They're not all exactly the same. So there's different chemistries that are involved. And really the biggest thing is the construction of the batteries and the battery packs are different.
Mm-hmm.
So that provides different challenges as well. You know, there's been a significant effort on the fire protection industry to find a fire suppression solution to lithium-ion battery fires. Yep. And let me tell you, as of today, nothing really exists that will put out a fire. And when you think about it, is how can it? You have it lithium-ion battery, which is its own energy source, which is burning from the inside out. Can we knock the fire down, put the fire out? Yeah, temporarily, but then it's going to come back. Right. And it's going to keep coming back until the energy burns itself out. Right. You know, Amerex is no different. We started probably about 3 years ago looking for a solution, and we still are looking for a fire suppression solution. Like I said, we can knock the fire down, buy some time, you know, we can do all that. But to actually extinguish one, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But in our efforts, we have some great engineers at Amerex. And in their efforts of trying to find a fire suppression solution, they found that what was occurring, and this is through hundreds and hundreds of fire tests and different types of tests, they found that prior to a battery going into thermal runaway, the battery itself, in most cases, would emit a gas, a derivative of hydrogen gas that would come off from the batteries. We started looking at that, investigating it, and we looked at what we had and what could we do, and we developed an early warning system, an early detection warning system. So we actually can detect the battery going into thermal runaway before it happens.
Interesting.
And when you think about the applications, you think about a bus. If you get 3 to 4 to 5 minutes of warning before it actually goes into flames, what can you do with that time?
Right.
You can save a lot of lives. The bus is driving 55 miles an hour down the road. You need that time to get that bus to a safe spot to get everyone off.
Sure.
So we actually can do that. We have an early warning system that picks up that off gases from lithium-ion thermal runaway, and we can buy extra time for that vehicle to get people off safely.
Now, so it detects that, and I see the gas sensors that are detecting that hydrogen or whatever it is, obviously alerts it. Now, will that prevent fires as well? Obviously, early warning, get everybody safe, right? But is that going to prevent the battery from going into runaway? You know, how often does that happen, or is it still gonna be an issue with going into runaway?
I'm going to give an answer I don't like, and I'm going to say it depends.
Yeah.
In some cases, it could.
Right.
By turning off the battery, you may be able to stop that process.
Sure.
But not in all cases.
Right.
You know, so it will depend on the situation. Is it a mechanical issue internally that's causing it? Is it, what is actually causing the battery? Is it because the battery is being overheated? There are many, many different ways that a thermal runaway can occur. So unfortunately, it depends.
Yeah. And when Amerex brought this up as a topic, it makes perfect sense. You never want the battery to start on fire, right? You never want to get into that thermal runaway condition. So I think that's a perfect solution right now, and it's probably there's still some cost there, but I think Tesla and Rivian and Ford, they're all putting out personal vehicles, which I think is still that's an issue too. So I think there's is there anything coming on the personal side that you know of that can detect and send something to the driver? I know buses is the focus, and I think that's a great step. But is there anything going on the personal side?
The private cars, for the most part, the commercial industry, certainly the technology that we've created can be used in that application, but it all comes down to cost, right?
Sure.
Value of the vehicle versus the cost of the protection system. And remember, we're trying to save multiple people here.
Yeah.
We don't really play that much in the private market,
sure.
The cars,
Yep.
but certainly the technology needs to be spread to that.
Yeah, and as you innovate and create that solution, I think that's only going to show that you can prove it and have it there. I mean, I imagine having a I love Teslas. I know a lot of people that do. I don't have one, but it'd be nice to if it's charging, I don't know, or when I'm driving, get an alert that hey, it's off gassing, and to shut it down, or maybe automatic shutdown before it even happens. So I think that would be, I think there's something there, and it's a big problem in fire protection right now is how to do that.
It is. As the technology develops, the fire suppression also has to develop.
Yeah, exactly.
And we also are putting fire protection on those buses too, because there still are hazards within those electric buses, the motors, the propulsion systems. And if you have a fire in those components, they'll spread to the batteries.
Oh,
and then cause a runaway for the batteries. So we are also providing suppression for those applications as well. Some of those battery packs may be $75,000, $100,000. So if you can prevent a fire that started outside of that from spreading to that, obviously there's a financial return on being able to do that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think the same technology probably goes to the battery, storage places where they're putting them, and I know in New York City, they have big battery storage places for just keeping up with demand and everything. And I know they have a fire. Phoenix had a fire.
Sure.
I forgot, but there probably wasn't that detection there, and it could have probably prevented, obviously huge loss, but that goes back to the whole power grid and everything too. So
we've been talking about electric vehicles because that's the up and coming, that's the drive right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want to look beyond that, so what's the next thing after electric? The next thing is hydrogen fuel cells.
Oh wow!
Those have been in development for many, many years, but it's the same thing. Everybody thinks they're great, no emissions. They're just much better for the environment, but the technology hasn't caught up to it yet.
Right.
So, but 3 years from now, maybe it has.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we're ready for that. We've got the system and the hydrogen sensors for that as well.
Oh yeah, I mean there's plenty of hydrogen.
So we're
there,
ready.
So yeah, you're ready for it, and I everybody's probably worried about liquid hydrogen, or is it is it liquid or in gas form? I don't even know.
It's a liquefied, but if it's released, it becomes a gas.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think you're right. Electric will be around, and obviously there's issues with batteries. But I think it's going to keep pushing, and you guys are ready there. And I'd love to, maybe in 3 years or whatever it is, once, it'd be interesting to see where the electric takes us, and if that, I have some good friends that work at Tesla now, on the fire protection side. They went over there, which is really cool to see that Tesla's, investing in the fire side of it. So, really cool to kind of see that, and where it's going to take us. And again, it's been a no pun intended, a hot topic in the last year or so. So,
absolutely.
Well, let's wrap it up. What I usually do, I don't know if you've heard any of my podcasts before, but I usually ask every guest. We have something called a quick response round, where I asked them a couple questions, and I didn't tell you about it beforehand because I want to make it truthful and all that. So, so I'll hit you with a couple questions. So you're from Buffalo. Everybody knows it's the home of the chicken wing, right? So, do you prefer blue cheese or ranch with your chicken wing?
That's really not a question, because if you choose anything other than blue cheese, you're doing it wrong.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
There is no such thing as ranch with chicken wings. It doesn't exist.
Well, it kind of caught on a few years ago, and my kids love it. I'm just a blue cheese person, or nothing, right? So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully.
No, I do a lot of traveling in different parts of the world. They asked that question, and I just shake my head. I said, "What are you doing?" So.
All right. Next question. You were in distribution before with local distributor, fire equipment distributor. What was your favorite suppression system to work on? I don't know if you were in the field or back in the shop, but in the field, what was your favorite system to work on?
It was definitely not kitchen systems, I can tell you that. I did a lot of that in my day, but I always preferred industrial applications. I liked paint spray booths. Back in the day, we did a lot of gas station systems when it was required in New York State. So depending on the weather, that was nice to work outside.
Yeah.
Could be good, could be bad, right? So I preferred the industrial systems. Those were my favorite.
Yeah, they're fun, and you get to. How do you test? Is it a balloon test for those? How do you test the industrial systems?
There's different things. What you do is take a cylinder, and you could just fill it with air, and just fire off the cylinder. I actually did one outside gas station system. The fire marshal made us put a little bit of powder in the cylinder, so he would see a little bit of powder go off.
Right.
So,
I wish
unfortunately,
the gas station systems are.
I hooked up the wrong one.
Oh no!
I hooked up the wrong one, so we actually had a little bit of a discharge there. So that was quite embarrassing.
Yeah, the gas station systems are kind of going. Unfortunately, they're going away a little bit. At least I know New York State, kind of put it in the code, and I think it's still in a bunch of the Northeast states and some others, but the oil lobby, they got way more money than the fire suppression.
The convenience store lobby for sure. Yeah. They got it taken out. So.
So last question. How far do the Bills get next year?
That's a tough question. I think they'll do pretty well. I see them competing again for a title. But I'm just finally glad Tom Brady has hung him up. Now we need to get Belichick out of there. And, he must have been watching the Bills Kansas City playoff game and thinking to himself, there's no way I'm ever going to compete again for a Super Bowl, or I'm ever going to get to a Super Bowl in the AFC with these two quarterbacks that I got to get through.
I know, right? Yeah, it was one of the best games. I mean, I'm not a Bills fan. I have a lot of our team are actually in Buffalo. So, yeah, that was tough to watch. But anyway, hey, they got a young team. They're going to be good for the next few years. So,
certainly hope so.
Well, Bill, thanks for joining the podcast today. I guess where can we find you? Where anything about Amerex that on the vehicle side for people to find you?
Yeah. Well, I'll throw my email address out there. It's william.jolbert, JOLBERT @amerex-fire.com. Before you go to the website, send in a request and send me your information, and I will get back to you.
Nah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the talk today, and looking forward to seeing. I'll be at NAFED. All this, I don't know if you'll be at NAFED. You're probably more on the vehicle side, but I'll see the whole Amerex team there, and they're excited about this episode. So
we'll be doing an Amerex vehicle training class the day before NAFED. So if you're headed out there and you're interested in vehicle suppression, let us know.
In Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas.
All right. Yeah, I'll toss that in the that's actually great timing. So I'll actually be out there a day early. Maybe I'll pop over or ask the team. But again, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.